Okay, I think we're going to get started. Thank you everybody for joining. Looks like a few more folks are rolling in, but we're going to get started. We're going to have some fun over the next half hour as we talk about the drama that has been an ongoing battle in the business intelligence world. So, welcome again. I've got Megan King, who is our Director of Success, with me. As well, I've got Graham Watt, who is our senior software architect as well here. All right, so why don't we dive into this? I've got about 15, 20 minutes of slides, and we're going to race through those. As I said, this is going to be a bit of a poke at the business intelligence world. And then if there's questions from the audience, we can get into those as well. And as always, we'll post this online afterwards for consumption. All right, so before we start, this is a sculpture by Giacometti, and it's worth $18 million. So maybe fitting for this world where lots of money is being spent, and maybe the value is in the eye of the beholder. So why don't we get into some of these stats over the next few slides. So first, just a quick introduction. This is me. I'm the CEO at Klipfolio, and I've got to confess, I have pushed thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dashboards and BI projects out to countless unsuspecting users over the past 10, 20 years. So that's my maybe unfortunate claim to fame for this presentation. All right, so maybe first some level setting. And I think everybody knows these numbers. They're big. They're big numbers. And if you go back in time, if we're going to go forward in time to 2032, the BI space and the spend on data and analytics never ceases to amaze me. It's growing like mad. I think it's just going to continue increasing. It seems to be always one of those top spend areas when you look at where companies are spending money. So this is continuing. It has been this way for a long time. Now, what's interesting about that is that, and for those of you in the space, this is Wayne Eckerson. I know Wayne really well. This is something that he said. He said, I'm puzzled by the persistently low adoption rates of BI and analytic tools. So Wayne has studied the BI and analytics space for years and years. There's nobody better that knows that space than Wayne. Now, those low adoption rates, that's 15%. Roughly speaking, that line has stayed at 15%. So, like it or not, as people are spending more and more money on data and analytics, end user adoption has persistently not gone above 15%. Now, the other strange thing, and when I think of a data leader, this is the guy that I think of. At the same time, data leaders say that usage has increased a lot. So something's not quite right here. And when I think of usage, like who are the folks in the organization that probably look at the reports and the dashboards and the charts the most? It's probably the data team itself, or the person that built the dashboard is probably looking at the most, making sure that it's right before it's being consumed. Or maybe it's the intern where, the CEO said, I need a report for my board meeting, hey, intern, can you make me this? So again, adoption by true end users has been persistently low. Now, there's three problems that I think we can identify. So why don't we get into that? So data is hard. There's no way around it. Data is hard. And this is a fake image. And the reason I know this is because no data scientist would be wearing a tie. So that's how we know. This also is a fake image, but it's sort of a neat image because think of your data as a commercial kitchen. There are tons of ingredients, and some of those ingredients need to be refreshed. They'll go stale over time, or they'll go bad over time. There may be some spices in the top corner that you need to use every now and then, but nobody really knows where they are or when exactly they should be applied. At the end of the day, though, the thing that needs to be consumed is this prepared, beautiful plate that somebody wants to get presented to them. This is what they're expecting. But all of this data in the background is what is required to make that stuff happen. Now, this is what the commercial kitchen looks like in the background. It's complicated. There's pipelines, there's ingestion processes, there's storage, there's all sorts of stuff that a modern organization will have to contend with to actually get those ingredients out to a beautiful looking plate for consumption or for a report. So it's complicated. It's complicated because things fail. There are errors left, right, and center. These are things that need to be debugged, and you have to dive into them and figure them out. And they have to be done over time. It's not a set and forget type of principle. Now, this is a study that Gartner did a little while ago, and one of the things that I want to highlight here is at some point, and this is in 2019, somebody in this survey said data preparation by business end users is an important thing to be focusing on. So this is in order of how important these initiatives are. So just think about that, data prep by end users. All right, so luckily that has decreased a little bit in importance, but I don't know who in their right mind would think that data prep by end users is an important thing. Data is hard. It takes specialized skills. It takes continuous effort. And at the end of the day, if an end user has ever done this, they're just going to go back to the analyst, the data team. They're going to ask for a CSV, and then they're going to use Excel. So data is hard. That's problem number one. Okay, let's dive into the second issue. And it's something that we're very passionate about is this idea of metrics. So these are the nouns, the verbs, the expressions. Whereas data were your facts, this is how you bring them out and expose them to your business audience. So everybody's got lots of data, oodles of data, and more every single day, every single minute. But what does it all mean? And how is it connected? And so that's the world of semantics. This idea of having definitions and that really being the key to really understanding and truly figuring out, what is that language that we're all speaking, that trusted and safe language that not only the data team understands, but also the business team. That is absolutely critical. So let's have a quick look at this. So the idea of semantics and metrics, and there's a number of companies, including ours, we've been thinking about this for quite a long time. So let's use an example. So we've got this metric up here. We have a name, a business understood name for that metric. We have a description that is human readable and understood by somebody in the business, and it's precise, it's opinionated. We understand that it's a ratio, so this is a calculation. It's a percentage. We know how we aggregate it. We know what the actual calculation is, and we also know what kind of dimensions we could slice and dice this metric by. This artifact is opinionated. It is defined. It is understood by the business. It's understood by the data team. And it is then the contract between how data flows and gets consumed by the audience. This is really important. This idea of semantic meaning and metric definitions is super important. So let's use an example. So those of you out there, think about how many employees do you have? I mean, just take a second and put the number into your mind. Okay, so some of you may say, oh, I've got 86 employees. Okay. Your colleague may say, well, hold on. I count 73 if I look at full-time and part-time employees. And then somebody else may say, somebody in HR or accounting may say, well, the way we track it, when I think of employees, I think of full-time equivalents, including long-term contractors. So this idea that the semantic meaning, the definition, the expression, even where that data comes from, that data lineage, all of that stuff is part and parcel to the trust of how the data team and the end user actually understands what they're looking at and how all colleagues in a company understand what they're looking at. That's really, really important. So again, in today's business analytics world, what happens is I'm just going to go ask the analyst, hey, I want exactly this, and then I'm just going to use it in Excel. And what's worse is that I've probably asked the analyst this same question over and over, but every time I ask it, I may not be exactly precise in what I asked last time. So I may be shifting exactly what I'm looking at. And then of course I'm presenting that, and it's just a wild west as I step into meetings and build these numbers into reports. So this idea of opinionated metrics definitions really matters. Okay, let's talk about number three, which is the users. Some of you in the audience, I think some of you may be part of the data team, some of you may be part of the consumption group, the end users. So literacy and behaviors and ego, of course, we can never ignore those things. I think those have been opportunities and challenges for as long as data has been something that has wielded power and decision-making benefit. So, of course, we all have biases. We're not experts. And when I say we're not experts, nor is a business user an expert on the data pipeline or the data quality or the data governance or the warehouse. As a data scientist or a data analyst is not an expert at the sales process or the marketing go-to-market or the financials of the business. So I think there's a real reason to work together on this. And of course, the other thing is that even though us in the industry, the folks that are software providers of business intelligence tools, even though we want everybody to be using our tools, the fact of the matter is business end users are working in email and Excel and PowerPoint, and they don't live in Tableau and PowerPoint and PowerMetrics all day long. So we all have biases and we're all not experts. And I think that's important to understand that we need to work together. So at the end of the day, in today's environment, our tools that are currently available, are they actually helping people make better decisions? So that's the true question. So let's have a few examples. I just picked some of the worst of the worst. Unfortunately, the worst of the worst is actually you find this stuff in your day-to-day. So here's a beautiful tree map. Here's a gorgeous example of some I don't even know what this is, but it's an absolute eyesore, an absolute mess. Pie charts, of course. I mean, everybody's been making fun of pie charts forever and ever, but they continue to be some of the most popular visualization types. So I don't know that you could make heads or tails of this. This one looks pretty cool. It looks like something out of Area 51. But would somebody actually spend the time to understand what is in here? I'm sure there's some really interesting insights in here, but it's too complicated. It's not doing its job. Likewise, this one is super cool, very sci-fi, but how on earth would you ever pretend to even interpret this? So again, the end user comes back to this question or this behavior. Let's just ask the analyst, and then I'm going to use it in Excel. So we continue to see this same behavior left, right, and center. So it's not your fault. This is the way the business intelligence world has evolved and matured and changed over time. There's lots of super awesome and exciting stuff in the future. But to date, these are the problems that we're facing. And one of the reasons, the three reasons that we believe that adoption has been so persistently low. Okay, so I'll leave you with sort of three takeaways to think about. And hopefully these are the things that will help you prepare for the future, develop better systems and ways of working together, and actually come to a point where the data that you do have is really and truly driving your business forward for end users. So we've identified the fact that data is hard, but these are your facts. You need to spend time maintaining the quality, the completeness of your data. So work with your data team, understand what they need to invest in. These are your facts. This is the foundation on which everything else is built. That trust element starts here. So something that we've been really excited about is this idea of semantics. So spend time on definitions. And it's the familiar, I put it in brackets, this familiar language of business. So make sure that as you're analyzing what metrics to track and what dimensions to use and what members to include inside of those dimensions, think about those words, those nouns and verbs and the expressions behind them. So think about making sure that this is the contract between the data and the consumption side. So make sure that those things are defined and everybody knows exactly how and what these things mean. So spend time there. And last but not least, tie it to objectives and results. And this sort of sounds like, the OKR kind of thing, but it's very true. So tie what you're building here to the business strategy. Map it to your business. Map it to the things that are happening right now in your business. The saying is the thing that gets measured gets improved. But the opposite is true too. If it matters, then people will want to measure it. I was just chatting with one of our partners, and they said that the sales results is one of these things that if it fails somewhere in the pipeline, if the data fails in the pipeline, those values, those numbers are critical to the team. So tie it to the business objectives and it will be used. So those three things I think will be helpful in understanding how to build these things up inside of your organization. It takes time and it takes working with not only the end users, but also the data team to make sure that trust remains throughout this entire tier. So trust is really, if you look at this, trust is the thing that ties all of this stuff together. So I'll leave it at that. Hopefully this has been sort of helpful and fun. As I said, a super short poke at where analytics has gone off the rails over the past X number of years, but I think there's a lot of super cool and exciting stuff moving forward into the future. So anyways, thanks for joining. I wonder if there's been any questions that have come in. So maybe I haven't been paying attention to it, but maybe Megan and Graham have seen any questions come in. Anything, Megan or Graham?
Yeah, I have a question coming in. Um, do we have some oh, here we go. Here's a great question. What's your take on how AI will change the space? This is
Yeah,
from Jaren.
yeah. So I was gonna get into that, even if
Super
somebody didn't
popular
ask.
question.
Yeah, 100%. So AI is changing the world in immeasurable ways. It's changing job titles. It's changing the way we're ingesting data, the way we're cleansing data, the way data is going to be interpreted as well. So the stuff that I presented here is probably as relevant, if not more relevant, if you have an AI working to sort of amplify this. So let's think about that. So the first thing was, data is hard, and these are your facts. So you need to make sure that data quality is absolutely rock solid. So there will be a mismatch of outputs, untrustworthy outputs, if those facts are either not quality data or there's a lack of completeness inside of your data warehouse or the available data that you have. So that's kind of layer one. I think more importantly is also this idea of this the semantic meaning. So again, like the AI needs context. I think that is the one massive truth that we have been learning as we've been observing how AI has been adopted and being used, that context really, really matters to AI outputs, outcomes. So this idea of defining your metrics, defining the dimensions that are being used inside of your organization. These are things that are really, really important for any kind of an AI system to understand. So this is how your business talks. These are the words that our business use. So when it spits out an answer, and somebody, an end user, is looking at that may not be very familiar with all the how that answer came to be. The AI needs to understand that these are defined, familiar, and safe words that our business is using. So that really matters. And maybe I'll add one other thing as well. So maybe to the last point, tie it to your business, the ontology of how those connections are being made. So your business strategy. So the AI should understand which metrics are related to each other. And it, of course, can do that. It can also understand not only explicit relationships where you have calculations, but also implicit relationships where something is influential on a certain pipeline. Um, but it also should be looking at goals. So inside of the huge funnel that is a business process, where have goals been set? And that relationship, that map or that ontology, is really critical for an AI to have a good outcome. So I think all of these things, they're fundamental to being able to actually run faster and run smarter with any kind of an AI process. Now, we're super excited about all this stuff because um, the amount of memory that AIs can use has just dramatically increased. The cost has come down. I think that corporate history that can be stored inside of an AI system is phenomenal. Like you can ask questions, and it, of course, better than any human will remember what happened 2, 3 years ago, or in a certain segment, or uh, all of that context, I think, is incredibly valuable. So I think the things here, the data quality, the governance, the semantic meaning, the ontology, tying it to your business, I think those things are all super, super important as we get further into this changing and super exciting world of where AI is taking us. Hopefully that helped. Meg, I don't know if there's a follow-up question, but Meg, was there any other questions that came in?
Yes, we have another one. Um, so it's clear that BI tools can produce visualizations that are very attractive, but not very informative. What are your best practices to ensure you're using kind of the best of both worlds, that they look good and they're useful?
Hmm. Yeah, so it's interesting. So the idea that and actually this sort of ties to the AI question as well. So visuals will always be a key way that humans learn. Seeing a trend line is really explanatory. Understanding that and consuming that is a way of communicating with your colleagues and showing and convincing them of where business decisions need to be made. So I think visualizations will not go away. I think that'll continue to be a really important part of business analytics. And I think AI will be used to sort of help unearth which visualizations matter and what the context is and what the insight is, and maybe even even though there's fluctuations here, maybe this is within the norm of what's realistic and what's outside of this band. And some of those things don't even require AI. So I think visualizations will continue to be super, super important. There's definitely best practices to communicating data to end users. You want to make sure that you've got good groupings. So if you take a visualization and you segment it by country, you're often going to get 150 little series lines, and it's overwhelming, right? So, there's ways to sort of group that, and you say, well, let me look at that by continent. So yeah, you get, 4 or 5 by subcontinent, by economic region. So I think this progressive disclosure of, what matters inside of the data through a visualization is a really effective way to still use beautiful and compelling visuals, but something that doesn't overwhelm users. I think there's also a way to test this, especially if you're on the data team. Involve some of your end users and ask them, how do you interpret this? What does this mean to you? And the litmus test question is, what decision or what actions would you take based on this visualization? And you'll very soon realize that, some of the visualizations are really effective at instilling confidence and moving faster and making a decision. Others are just, for lack of a better word, a spaghetti mess. Maybe they look great as art on a wall, but they're not doing the job. I think other visualizations can be for different purposes too. I heard of a customer of ours who used a very, very simple dashboard. There's no real insights to it, but there's just, here are our daily sales numbers. It's not an analytical dashboard. It's an operational real-time dashboard. They're just putting those numbers up. It creates a sense of urgency and competition. So I think understanding what's the purpose of the visualization really, really matters as well. So is this something where we're analyzing and understanding and making decisions? Or is this an operational dashboard where we're monitoring and driving certain behaviors or accelerating certain behaviors? So I'm not sure if that answered the question, but we're always happy to chat offline as well.
If we have time, there's just one more quick question. How do you start defining your metrics? Is there where do you find your definitions, and what places should we be looking at?
Yeah, that's a good sort of last little question. First of all, I mean, understanding what's important to your business. I think there's a lot of tools out there that will help you do that. There's probably already dashboards or Excel sheets that you're using that encapsulate some of those words and those things. One thing that we started a while ago was this project called Metric HQ. So if you haven't seen it already, definitely search for Metric HQ, and it's a huge library of expert contributed metrics, their definitions. They're categorized by finance or sales or support and stuff like that. So you can first of all learn about why a metric matters, what the calculation is. So certainly that is one of the resources that we point a lot of our users and our customers to. There's other resources out there as well, but this one is definitely one that we're behind, and it's been sort of expert led as well. But map that to, again, your business strategy and the words that you're using internally, but go through that process of being disciplined and opinionated about the words that you're using, and so that everybody understands what that means and how it's defined. Okay, that's great. I think we're at time. It's 10:30, so right on time. We're going to make this available offline for anybody that didn't catch it or wants to watch it again. I'll just as a quick plug, this is going to be the first of a small series of webinars. We're going to be the next one that we're talking about is sort of a deep dive or a slightly more technical dive into what is a metric and why it matters. We're then going to be talking about the metric maturity model. So this is a study that we have done, where we're looking at different departments and different maturity levels, and it'll help people understand where they are and what they should be aspiring to. And then the last one will be sort of an application of, okay, how do we make this thing applicable? How do we put it into practice? So stay tuned for those things as well. Again, thanks for joining us today, and have a great rest of the day. Thanks, everyone.